allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. First item on the agenda, I don't think, did we have some minutes to approve?
Yes.
From
April 11th?
I didn't have them in my.
I got them.
All right, what date were they? I'm sorry, April 11th. All right, did anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes from April 11th? I didn't get them, I'm sorry. All right, if not, no changes or corrections. Those minutes are submitted. Report of the town manager, Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Mayor Black, members of council. Did want to bring to everybody's attention that the vote on the Phase 2 boundary adjustment will need to be delayed till May 23rd. That is due to the surveying and advertising requirements associated with the changes to the map that were made at the called meeting last Wednesday. And since we have a long agenda, I'll wrap up my report with that, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anybody got any questions for Mr. Warner? No? All right. Appearances before council. I think everybody that signed up is actually going to be part of the one of the public hearings. Okay. All right. So is there anybody else that wishes to comment on anything in general before we move in, get to the public hearings? No? Okay. Report of council, or council comments. Mr. Hunt.
Okay, first I want to welcome everybody here to the meeting. Thank you for coming out. You know, here's the thing. Obviously, we've got Phase 2 that's coming in, that could be coming in. I don't want to say it's definite yet, but I'm saying that it could. I'm looking at ways to try and soften the blow a little bit. Another thing I'd like to see done differently. I know we have no say in this, but in our Centertown area, I'd like to see more businesses be open a little bit longer. That way they have a chance to maybe get more customers in their shops, or at least that's my opinion.
Mr. Johnson.
I'll pass.
I'll pass.
Stacy. There.
Pass.
Bob? No, I don't have anything from since the last meeting, last week. So, report of council committees. No committees have met since we met last. And revisions to agenda. Is there any changes or any? No? All right, so no additions or revisions to the agenda. So the first item is I'll open the public hearing on the proposed real property tax increase. Mr. Warner, if you'll read the notice on that.
The town of Bedford proposes to increase property tax levies. One involves the assessment increase. Total assessed value of real property, excluding additional assessments due to new construction or improvements to property, exceeds last year's total assessed value of real property by 25.09%. Section 2, the lowered rate necessary to offset increased assessment. The tax rate, which would levy the same amount of real estate taxes last year, when multiplied by the new total assessed value of real estate with the exclusions mentioned above, would be 25 cents per $100 of assessed value. This rate will be known as the lowered tax rate. Section 3, the effective rate increase. The town of Bedford proposes to adopt a tax rate of 29 cents per $100 of assessed value. The difference between the lowered tax rate and the proposed rate would be 4 cents per $100 or 17.02%. This difference will be known as the effective tax rate increase. Individual property taxes may, however, increase at a percentage greater than or less than the above percentage. Section 4, proposed total budget increase. Based on the proposed real property tax rate and changes in other revenues, the total budget of the town of Bedford will exceed last year's by 0.14%. A public hearing on the increase will be held now, Tuesday, April 25th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of the town of Bedford Municipal Building. This notice published by order of the clerk of the town council.
Is there anybody that would wish to speak on the proposed real property tax increase? Mr. Thomas?
My name is David Thomas. A lot of you already know me, of course, and I hate to come up here and see nobody object or have anything to say about the tax increase, because like I was telling some of you before the meeting, with what the county has done last night and what y'all are proposing, the taxes on my property is going to increase somewhere around $400 a year. And that seems like a tremendous amount. And what he's talking about, maybe some would be less, some would be more, and I'm sure a lot of them will be more. Like I say, the county did, and I wish there was some way possible that y'all could not raise it quite as much. Maybe 27 cents rather than 29 would really help. But I guess this is probably set in concrete already, and I just thought I would speak rather than nobody else speaking. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Anybody else wish to speak on the real property tax rate? No? All right, we'll close the public hearing. All right, the next, open the next public hearing on the proposed personal property tax rate. Mr. Warner, if you'll read the notice on that.
Please be advised that a public hearing on the tax rate will be held on Tuesday, April 25th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of the Town of Bedford Municipal Building. To wit, to set a personal property tax rate of not more than $1.06 per $100 of assessed valuation in the Town of Bedford for calendar year 2023, and to set a machinery and tools tax rate of not more than 1/1000th of a cent, I think that's right, per $100 assessed valuation in the Town of Bedford for calendar year 2023.
All right, would anybody wish to speak on the proposed personal property tax rate? No? All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing on the personal property tax rate. Next item is we'll open the public hearing on the conditional use permit for a travel park at 1508 Longwood Avenue. Mr. Warner, if you'll read the notice on that.
Notice is hereby given of a public hearing to be held by the Town Council at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 25th for the purpose of hearing a request for a conditional use permit in zoning district B2 for travel park for property located behind 1508 and 1510 Longwood Avenue along Independence Boulevard, tax parcels 156-5-C-19T, 156-5-C-1T, and 177-2-C-33T. The owners are Amanda Marie Incorporated, Christopher Blair, and James W. Andrews. The applicant is Christopher Blair of Bedford, Virginia. The plan requests 35 recreational vehicle lots with visitor amenities on 7.44 acres done in 2 phases with access from Independence Boulevard. Information has been on file in the Office of Planning and Community Development, and at this time, anyone who is in favor of or opposed to the request shall have an opportunity to express his or her views at this hearing.
All right, Mr. Adams.
Yes. Okay. My name is Ed, last name is Adams, and I live on Belmont, which is a quarter-mile away from the property. And I believe that this proposal is good for Bedford. It's good for the economy. It's good for tourism in this area. And the people that bought this piece of property have done a tremendous job because it used to be a trashy place. And I think as a town, we need to move on and accept change. So anyway, I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Maurice Hanson. Mr. Hanson, if you don't mind, just for the record, because we'd like to get the address, and I've got the other people wrote their address on the sheet. If you don't mind, just for the record, give your name and address too.
My name is Maurice N. Hanson, 140 Villa Oak Circle. That's Bedford. And I want to thank each one of you for serving here. You guys are kind of unsung heroes. I've been a few towns where it just raised all kinds of hells and all kinds of recalls and all kinds of stuff, and I just thank you guys for being the servants that you are. Anyhow, my name is Hanson, and I have a doctorate in business development. And I just want to say, I approve, and not only that, but I think we should all be behind this trailer parking place over there and a few other things. We got too many for rent signs in this town, and there's too many buildings over there that could be used. And I don't know if we have a research committee on finding people to maybe come to our town and help increase our tax burden, but I think it's something we would appreciate you thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Mr. Thomas?
As I said before, David Thomas, I live at 1615 Shady Knoll Avenue. The wife and I own 3 lots that border on Mr. Chris's property. And I'm here, I've been to the Planning Commission a number of times speaking in favor of this, and I hope to goodness that since they seem to have approved it, or I hear that they have, I hope that y'all can do the same thing, because I think it's a great thing for the town, and definitely going to be a great thing for our property, because what's been there before is a nightmare. I mean, total nightmare. And what he's talking about is going to be, seem to be great. And I'm sure the town will benefit from it tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And Mr. Blyer? Yes, certainly.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Roberts, and I live at 414 Avenel Avenue. As I understand the permit, it is somewhat conditional on the maintenance of a log of the travel park visitors, how long they stay, how often they return. And I would ask that the council identify a resource to monitor that report and report back to the council on that log. The idea was that folks would stay a relatively short period and that they would leave and come back. I just would ask that you develop a resource to monitor that travel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else before the developer? Mr. Blair?
All right, thank you. A long road to get here. Oh my goodness. If I wipe my eye, I got hit by a stick today working, so it's touch and go in my eye right now. I presented a packet to you guys, and some of you have already had it, but this is basically outline what we're thinking about, what we're doing at 1508, 1510. We're actually trying to do a travel park here in that location, coming off Independence Boulevard to benefit Bedford. I mean, I think, you know, just like several people talked tonight, we need to bring people to Bedford to visit Bedford and have that wow factor for Bedford. And that's what we're trying to develop here in that part of town. When we look at an RV park in general, it brings $1.4 billion of economic impact to Virginia alone. So we need to take advantage of some of that economic impact, I feel. Over a nationwide, in your packet, you can see it develops $114 billion of impact in the United States alone. And that is a large amount of money. And right now, we don't have anything that's closely related to Bedford. We send people to the biggest RV park show in the country to bring people to Bedford, but we have nowhere for them to stay when we go to this RV seminar. So I think, you know, we saw a need for it, and the location we developed or came across is ideal for it. I mean, it's a really great spot. We can go into talking about that if we want, where as far as we have the local restaurants, the Rainbow, the Dairy Queen, the Mexican restaurant, the Food Line, the Advance Auto, the Dodge dealership. I mean, usually you have these RV parks out in the middle of 30 miles from the closest store. Here they can reset. They can come right off 460, 221, 122, and reset. People at the end of their RV experience, they're getting older, they don't have to ride these back windy roads. We're right here in town. They can see D-Day and visit the Peaks of Otter and tour our businesses downtown. We can bring, hopefully, people to Bedford, and that brings business to Bedford. That's what we're shooting for. They're actually projecting 600,000 new units in 2022 to be built. So they're not slowing down on building these things. I mean, they're expecting to be building the RVs and that to continue to progress. We have the Need a Ride thing here in Bedford. That's a great service that we offer. I mean, I think people are utilizing that and getting to visit and tour different parts of Bedford they never had access to do. I think that always needs to be looked to make sure we're efficiently running that. But I think that is an amazing thing that we offer. As you go through the packet, you can see the location. I want to thank AccuPoint. AccuPoint developed our site plan with us out of Lynchburg. They've done a tremendous job developing and setting our site plan in. And if you haven't taken a look at it, I would really advise everyone in Bedford to take a look at it because I think it's going to be a wow factor in Bedford. I mean, we want people to come and say, wow, this is an amazing RV park. Wow, this is an amazing town. Wow, this is amazing amenities that we offer in town. I mean, we want that wow factor for Bedford. And then they leave and then they come back, hopefully, and visit again. So you can see that. We have several pages of that. And then it gets to the idea of what we're actually trying to do. So you can see we're kind of, we want them to feel like they're camping. I don't want to feel like they're out in the middle of nowhere, but I do want them to feel like they do have a touch to nature. So we are going to try gravel drives, 20-foot roads, in and out. We're talking about pedestals with full amenities, water, electrical, and sewer hookups. We're talking about phase 2 as a big entrance. We want to have a big wow factor at the entrance when people come in. You can see as we go through, we're talking about bathrooms and pavilions, with an idea of what we're wanting it to look like as we go through, and the gates. The entrance off Independence is going to be a neat thing. We're actually in the cold between CBC and Dodge dealership. We're going to come in, pull an 8% grade, then we're going to start to flatten out. Where we start to flatten out, we think we can get about 27 to 28 before we start to really have to work some of those in, those last couple down towards Shady Knoll entrance off Independence. That one's going to be a little more tricky to make sure we get the level platforms. We still think we can make the 2-to-1 grades, so we don't have to build a lot of retaining walls. We do think we're going to get natural flow coming back for sewage coming back and tying in. We're still working with Bedford Water Authority to make sure we can do that. They've been great so far working with us. Bedford Electric's been great working for us and working with us. They've been very responsive of our needs. Jimmy Andrews has done a great job. He's really helping us out down there on that tie-in right there off Independence. And he's really working with us because he sees the vision. Jimmy Andrews sees the vision of his 2 acres right there and wants this to happen in Bedford. I mean, he's helping me out. So if you see Jimmy, thank him, because he's a major part. Then we go to people like David that live next door. The first thing I did when I bought this property is I went and said, what do we foresee this land developing as? So I went to the neighbors. That was the first thing I did, because I would want somebody to come to me and say, hey, I bought this land behind you. What do you want to do with it? Give me an idea. And so we sat down with the neighbors and we talked about it. And so far, every neighbor we've talked to is in support of it. So we thought, well, this would be a great thing. And a lot of the people that we've talked to were RVers in the past, so they know that hell we're shooting for. And RV people are. They're good people. They're safe people. They're honest people. They want to spend money. They want to visit. They want to enjoy the area they're in a safe and clean manner. And I think we can provide that. So we got some letters of recommendation. Nicole Johnson with tourism. She was huge in this pursuit. So thank you, Nicole. She gave us some great facts about how this can really benefit Bedford and what this could do for Bedford. So read that letter there that she provided, and that's a great way. We do have several other people that live on Shady Knoll that we got support letters from in the packet. Also, the Bedford YMCA is in support of it. We got some letters from them for support. We're ready to go. In the future, if this does pass, the main thing I see that we need help with is just continued support. I mean, this is a big project. This is a huge project for Bedford. So I need to have continual help from not only the citizens of Bedford, the council of Bedford, Mary Zerk has been amazing. She has guided me through this project from day one. And so we need, her support is, I can replace you, Mary. I mean, you've been amazing. Bart, I mean, getting involved in this from the beginning, this was a great thing. I mean, we sat down and we talked about it. I remember from day one where we sat down and we said, you know, is this going to be something we should envision for Bedford? So thank you for having that vision. You know, we want to do it, but we're going to need the help from Bedford Water Authority. We're going to need help from Bedford Electric. We're going to need help from citizens of Bedford. We're going to need help from people that are moving dirt, putting in infrastructure, building buildings. I mean, you know, we're going to need some help to get this going for Bedford. It's not going to happen overnight, and I can't do it all myself. So, you know, anything, resources you have, not only on the council, but in the you know, town itself, if you're hearing this, bring them to me. I'll be glad to see if we can work it in. Okay? Any questions we have at all from anyone?
When we get to the action item, if we have any questions,
Okay.
we'll probably do that. We'll just let you.
All right, gotcha. But that's pretty much the rundown of where we're at in the project. Thank you.
Chris. Anybody else wish to speak? No? All right, well, I'll close the public hearing on the conditional use permit for the travel park. Next item is the ordinance for the real estate tax for fiscal year 2023, 2024. Mr. Morning.
The total real estate assessment, less new construction for the town of Bedford increased by approximately 25.09%. Section 58.1-3321 of the 1950 Code of Virginia as amended requires that certain notices be published and a public hearing be held when the annual real estate assessment, less new construction, results in an increase of 1% or more. Said notice of public hearing was placed in the Bedford Bulletin on March 22nd, and the public hearing was recently just concluded. The town has advertised a proposed real estate tax rate of 29 cents per $100 of assessed value. Tonight, Town Council is requested to consider adoption of an ordinance levying tax upon real estate and certain tangible personal property of public service corporations and establishing the tax rate thereon for the fiscal year of 2023-2024.
So we have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we do a tax rate of 28 cents per 100 on assessed value, which is 3% reduction in the current tax rates of 31% per 100 for the year 2023-2024.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Anybody want to make any comments?
For the public, we discussed this for a good hour and a half, 2 hours before this meeting, as far as taking it down from 29 to 28, and that was the consensus. So unless there's any change of hearts now, it was a back and forth, some who wanted to equalize it and, you know, others who didn't. So it was a compromise just because we have to get a budget passed. So 28 is what the consensus was.
And it is a very tight budget. It's not,
Right.
There's no fat in it.
All right, we've had only an increase. What was it, Tim, the percentage increase in the budget this year?
Well, before at 29%, it was an increase in the overall general fund or overall budget of 0.14%. So,
And that's even in light of inflation being
Right.
79%. So we've had to run really lean, and so something had to be done. We are reducing, as Mr. Haley said, the actual tax rate. Is it going to theoretically bring in more revenue? Yes, but it was a compromise at 28.
You know, I'll admit, I myself even asked, hey, could we go as low as 27 cents to see what could be done? I was trying to figure out, hey, what all can be done to lower it as much as we possibly could. And this 28 cents is what we ended up arriving at as a compromise.
All I'm going to say, we try to do what we can to help our citizens, and that's what we try to do, look out for our town, so. That's what we're here for.
yeah, like I said, it was a good discussion. You know, we were able to lower the tax rate, but we're not affecting any services. We're taking care of our employees. You know, we were able to move some stuff around. You know, so yes, it would be nicer to get that lower. I mean, because we all have to pay taxes up here just like the rest of you. But at the same time, we've got to make sure we're meeting you all's expectations for the services we provide. And I think we've done that. I mean, there'll be, in outlying years, there'll be more to do. We do recognize that, you know, a big source of our revenue is real estate taxes. So we're, I think, going to start having some discussions about how we can diversify some of our revenues, see if there's other ways, you know, we can bring in revenues. There are other sources out there that, one of them we're going to look at later tonight. You know, I think we are moving in the right direction. I mean, we hear the citizens that, you know, real estate taxes are front and center on their mind, and you just can't get there overnight. You know, you got to have a plan to work, and I think we're starting to do that, and so I was glad to see we were able to at least get 1 more cent off the tax rate.
Yeah.
So with that, any other comments? No? All right, roll call?
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherwin?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right. Next item is the ordinance on the personal property tax for calendar year 2023.
The current personal property tax rate is $1.06 per $100 of assessed valuation on all taxable tangible personal property, including property separately classified in Section 58.1-3503 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, unless exempted from taxation or subject to a different rate. No change is being proposed for calendar year 2023. The following items are taxed at a rate of 1/10,000th of 1 cent per $100 of assessed valuation. Machinery and tools, motor carriers, one vehicle owned by a disabled veteran, motor vehicles with a seating capacity of not less than 30 persons, including the driver, as separately classified in Section 58.1-3506, subsection A, paragraph 39. No changes are being proposed for calendar year 2023. A notice of public hearing was published in Bedford Bulletin on April 5th, and the public hearing was recently concluded. Tonight, Town Council is requested to consider adoption of an ordinance levying tax upon tangible personal property and establishing the tax rates thereon for the calendar year beginning January 1, 2023.
Do we have a motion to,
So moved.
Second.
all right, discussion?
There's no change in the rate.
No change in the rate. But there are a couple things that I would like to reiterate too. So obviously, everybody remembers the personal property tax relief. You're going to get $20,000 worth of assessed value off your vehicles. Well, you know, the state has brought that way down. So we get $280,000 approximately that we can apply to all the personal property vehicles in town. We've gone a step further, and we've done this for many years, and we've provided additional local tax relief on personal property. So anybody that has a vehicle under $20,000 personal property, they don't get a tax. You know, so plus our tax rate is extremely low compared to our partners across the street at the county. At $1.06. So, you know, another good thing I think we can pass on. You know, this was a big contentious item this year because the assessed values of vehicles went through the roof, but we're starting to see some data, I think, and we're anticipating probably about a 15 to 17% reduction in assessed values. So hopefully, you know, that will help, a reduction will help lower your tax from what it was last year. So, you know, those are some good things. And I just want to point that out because a lot of people don't know that we do offer that first $20,000 in value, basically tax-free. So, anyway. Any other comments? No? Roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherman?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson? Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, I guess this one kind of goes along with what I just said, but anyway, go ahead, Ms. Warner, the resolution on setting the percentage tax relief to exhaust the PPTRA relief funds.
The Virginia General Assembly in 1998 passed the Personal Property Tax Relief Act with the philosophy that relief would be gradually implemented to eliminate personal property tax on personal use motor vehicles. By 2004, the Virginia General Assembly had revised its philosophy and capped the contribution from the Commonwealth to localities for reimbursement for personal property taxes. As a result, the then City Council on November 22, 2005, in accordance with state statutes, adopted an ordinance which provided that the funds to be reimbursed to the City of Bedford by the Commonwealth would be allocated in such a manner as to eliminate personal property taxation on each qualifying vehicle with an assessed value of $1,000 or less, and that the council would set annually by resolution a percentage of relief in respect to assessed values of more than $1,000 as applied to the first $20,000 in value of each such qualifying vehicle, so as to exhaust fully the PPTRA funds provided to the city by the Commonwealth. The funding and methodology of the PPTRA remain the same upon the reversion of the city to a town. The amount received from the state, $280,647, is allocated toward personal property tax relief in the town of Bedford for fiscal year 2023-2024. In the prior fiscal year, a rate of 100% on the first $20,000 of assessed value was adopted, and the total relief applied to personal property bills was $427,510. Council is asked to consider adopting a PPTRA rate of 100% for fiscal year 2023-2024, and tonight Town Council is requested to adopt the resolution establishing a percentage tax relief rate pursuant to the Virginia Personal Property Tax Relief Act.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution as recommended by staff.
Any discussion? Like I said, that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier, so I kind of got ahead of myself, but anyway. All right. Roll call.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, next item, street maintenance funding budget appropriation.
In January 2023, the town increased the budget funding to the street and highway maintenance funding line item by $150,503 based on the current funding from the state. On March 22, 2023, the town received notice from the Department of Transportation that all cities and certain towns would be receiving an increase in their maintenance payments for fiscal year 23, which would be distributed equally in quarters 3 and 4. On March 28, 2023, the town received the third quarter funding from the state. Based on this payment, the town will need to appropriate an additional $128,253 for VDOT eligible expenditures. Staff would like to request the additional revenue to be formally appropriated to the expenditure line item for paving under the VDOT account. Tonight, Town Council is requested to approve a budget amendment which will appropriate budget to the general ledger accounts as described below. An increase of $128,253 in the revenue line item identified street and highway maintenance, and a corresponding expenditure increase of $128,253 in the line item identified as blacktop.
All right, we have a motion for the street maintenance funding.
Second.
Any discussion? And I asked this earlier, but this 128 will be ongoing in the future until they begin hopefully at some point. All right. Roll call.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, next item, the ordinance for the VML joinder agreement.
On February 28, 2023, representatives from the Virginia Municipal League provided a presentation on the Virginia Investment Pool Program available to local government entities. In order to participate in this program, Town Council is required to pass an ordinance which would give town staff the ability to earn interest income on deposit accounts in this program. Under this agreement, the town would designate the position of the finance director to serve as the representative of the town of Bedford to make deposits, withdrawals, and account changes. Tonight, Town Council is requested to adopt the ordinance authorizing participation by the town in the VACO VML Virginia Investment Pool for the purpose of investing in accordance with Section 2.2-4501 and 15.2-1300 of the Virginia Code.
All right, do we have any motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, yes. Actually, it might be from Ms. Cantrell. And you may have addressed this before, but because we retained the Davenport group to help with the police inquiry into the police station. But my understanding is they were also here for financial help and advice generally. How is this different?
This is actually like a checking or an investment account where we can deposit it with them almost like a banking institution, and then we get interest off of that.
So we don't need, I thought we were going to maybe go to Davenport for their, I won't say approval, but their recommendation for these things. Is that not?
This acts more like an investment account. So it's literally like they'll open up an account and assign account numbers for you, and you make deposits and withdrawals, and it performs in the market. So they invest it on your behalf, and then you get the returns.
Okay, so it's just outside of what Davenport will be doing
Correct.
for us. Is it when you were inventing it, was this used?
Yes, and actually what I heard when we were, I believe, excuse me, we were talking to different auditing firms, this was actually something that one of the firms brought up. They said, a lot of our clients are using the
Using
VIP
VML.
investment pool. We're seeing really great returns in this program. And I said, it's funny you mentioned that. They're presenting tonight. So
Okay. So they,
we've heard it's a great program, and we've seen it.
so you've had positive experience with this before?
Yes,
Okay.
they have performed very well.
Okay. That's all I have.
Yeah, and it's, if you remember from the presentation, it's basically two pools, investment pools. One was a liquidity pool, which is basically almost a money market type account. And then the other was like a 1 to 3 year short-term kind of limited risk. I mean, you can't say anything in today's world is risk-free, but I mean, a limited risk, a little bit, longer investment. So, obviously, we're not getting hardly anything, and our money just sitting in the banks right now, so this might be a tool we can use to, and can use to manage our finances and make a little extra.
Do they get a percentage? Does VML get, how are they compensated?
I'm sure in their calculation they are, just like a bank fee or
Right.
similar, but I don't have that exact amount or how they're calculated.
Probably net of those returns. I think it was net of those returns, which I don't know if they're still in the 4.25 range. I don't know if that's still where they are right now, but that's where they were several months ago.
I had seen one several months ago, but I hadn't seen the latest one. Normally it comes out every quarter, so I'm sure there's one for March, and I'll try to find that for you all and let you know.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, roll call.
Mr. Shelley?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley? Mr. Hartley?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, the next item is the resolution conditional use permit for the travel park at 1508 Longwood Avenue.
Subject property is located at 1508 Longwood Avenue and Independence Boulevard and is zoned General Business B2. Property currently has 2 vacant buildings being renovated, and the remaining acreage is vacant and generally clear. The applicant is requesting a travel park use for recreational vehicles, which was added to the zoning ordinance in 2022, allowable with a conditional use permit. There are specific site and special requirements that must be met, and conditions may be imposed by both the Planning Commission and Town Council for any aspects of the request. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on April 6, 2023. The applicant spoke, as did 4 members of the public. The applicant described 2 phases of development, tree placement for adjoining neighbors, no entrance from Longwood, Dirt will be moved around within the site, targeting RVs priced over $200,000, moving a dumpster farther from the neighbors closer to Independence, 24-hour staffing the first year, safety for pedestrians with lighting, and a sidewalk to Food Line. 2 residents spoke in support of the project. 2 speakers expressed concerns related to traffic, the potential need for a stoplight, RVs coming in and out, and that someone on town staff should be looking at a guest log, which is actually a code requirement. The commission discussed details of the project, including how water and sewer and electricity will be provided to each campsite, a possible increase in the length of stay beyond the 21-day consecutive limit, and the town burn ordinance that could be in conflict with campfires. No conditions were discussed by the commission. The commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the conditional use permit to council with no additional conditions. And tonight, town council is requested to consider a resolution issuing a conditional use permit, bless you, as recommended for approval by the planning commission. Council may deny the request or approve the request with or without conditions.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we consider a resolution issuing a conditional use permit as recommended and approved by the planning commission.
Second. Yeah, we have a second from Bruce. Okay.
Now, something that they were talking about is the ability to have campfires. Now, personally, whenever you go camping, that's part of fun, is being able to have a campfire. If it'd be all right with you, if we can add an amendment to this, allowing them to have campfires, as long as the wind wasn't blowing a whole lot.
I think as long as it's enclosed, isn't that, because I know I've got a fire pit that I burn in my back patio on occasions when it's cool, just to burn wood, but it's enclosed. So I think in looking pictures, that's what most campgrounds have, an enclosed ring. Now, not just a campfire burning freely.
If I might butt in, given that a conditional use permit is adopted by resolution, whereas our burn ordinance is an ordinance, you can't adopt a CUP that would try to prevail over the ordinance. You could, however, create an exception within that ordinance, but we would have to come back and do that.
It would have to be a whole, it's an ordinance change. It's not something we can do under the conditional use process.
You can't do it tonight.
Are campfires in violation of the ordinance? Has anybody
I don't know off the top of my head.
investigated?
That's a tough one. I mean, like a solo stove, which I may have at my house.
That's what I have.
Smokeless, but I think technically it might be a violation. I mean, I think under the way the code is written, the regs, I think you actually have to call the fire chief to get approval for a solo stove. So I think we.
Is it
Something that Mr. Blair's asking.
Well, in the pictures in here, it's more of an open fire pit, which I think is more likely is in violation, at least the pictures. So we would need to address it. I'm for them. You know, the effect of smoke, on 30 fires going over there could be an issue, but.
Okay, I see.
So right now, so the plan does, I mean, is it just an open air? Maybe Mr. Blair, can you kind of explain what it would look like? I mean, is it in-ground, enclosed, is it?
I'm willing to do whatever we need to do. I mean, it's not like we're written anything in stone. The main thing is to bring it to the table to talk about it,
Right.
to the neighbors, to you all, to, the fire department, to ordinance, whatever we need to do to make it work. But I agree with, Bruce. I think it's a great thing where families, build memories around fires, s'mores, things like that. So, we could do an in-ground one, we could do an above-ground one like what, you have at your house. But I think we definitely need to do a look at it and see what we actually need to do to make that happen, or what we allow at a general house down the street.
I think it's something, I know I agree with it, and the fire pit and everything, it's just, it has to be addressed.
Yeah.
We can't do it tonight.
And I think,
Right.
and I think if we leave that on the, thing to look at.
Right.
Future, because we're also going to hopefully come back and look at the 21 days versus for people coming in. So we have things we can go back and, this is a project that's going to take a while, but, I think a movable pit would be great, because then we'd be more in coordinates with what the average homeowner has right up the street.
Right.
and we can move it to where they need to move it away from their truck.
I think it's something that will be
I
worked
think
out
it's
with
some-
you and Ms. Circle.
As time goes on.
I think it's a great idea.
We talking about fire pit,
Mary
what
got
about grills? Are
Sir.
people looking to have like
A grill.
a grill?
Grills. I'm not providing grills.
But if, I know.
But they
some
do
mobile
carry
homes
grills.
do carry
Yes,
grills.
sir.
And they, so, I mean, I think this is something, first of all, I like the idea, I'm all for it, but there are things we need to look at that won't jump up and bite you later on down the
Yeah.
road. And this fire thing is one of them because of our open fire. We need to check with that with the chief, but I'm thinking there, if you fire up a grill, yeah, that's not, you know what I'm saying? That.
I know.
that's
Could be a
not
violation.
You know, if.
Right, it's not meant to be, but.
It's not meant to be,
Right.
but, I mean, I
Mary
don't
hadn't
know.
looked it up, but yeah, I think if we kind of abide
not-
by what
okay.
the actual household down the street's doing, I think we'll be pretty good, you know? But
Yeah,
Mary's got something
Mary,
she-
yeah, go ahead, have Mary.
Section 22.3, burning of brush, leaves, debris, et cetera, generally, and then deals with seasonal burning restriction, then open burning. Section A, last sentence says, burning may be permitted as follows. Number 3, open burning for the purposes of food or recreational purposes such as campfires
Is
is,
permitted
may be
It's
permitted
permitted.
as
It is
follows.
permitted.
without permission from the fire chief. You can just do it.
The way that I read this section, burning as noted in this section is permitted only upon notification and approval of the chief of the fire department. So I think that that would still require notification and approval. It might be that there could be a comprehensive plan for how you were going to do it throughout the season rather than it being individual. Everybody needs to call the fire chief.
I think that's what the planning commission was concerned about, because every time somebody lit a fire, it was gonna be a burden on the fire.
But you're
But if
not
the
gonna
campground-
provide like grills and all of this, right? This is if a camper comes in and wanna break out their grill or break out their stove and do it, right? You're not gonna have it there burning 24/7.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most campers have their own grills.
I'm hoping they're
But
gonna, I'm hoping they're
just
gonna go
saying
down to Rainbow and get a pizza
Still,
burger.
he probably needs to protect himself by being able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's gotta be in,
Have
in-
some license in there to say, okay, you can put it here and you can do this.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to them taking for granted that they can come in and light a fire and then you got the police or the fire department
Right.
tag it. But I don't think it, I think you would be all right with that. Just
Well-
something you need to look at.
My problem is with the whole thing is, I mean, if you're gonna get where somebody has a small fire pit there, like CG said, if you have a fire pit in your backyard, you're not gonna call the fire chief every time you have a fire pit in the backyard burning.
No?
I mean,
That's
there's
what I'm
probably
saying.
plenty of people in town that's got fire pits in the backyard.
And with the revision, you're gonna have even more.
Yeah.
They're gonna have bonfires.
Well,
But in the process, you will have rules and regulations to the park.
Sure. Exactly.
So that will that,
Yeah, and I think everything we can abide by, I mean, I don't see any hindrance on
Mr.
our
Ma-
view.
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that probably the intent of the ordinance would be to allow a situation like this for gentleman right here to work with Chief Stone to try to put together a fire control and plan and rules for the campground that were part of that plan that was permitted by him, so that it isn't every single fire that
No.
he's getting a call about. It's, here's the plan, and as long as you're following the plan, you
right.
can have
You
fires
know,
at your
it's gotta
campground.
be in an enclosed fire pit, or
Yeah,
it's
we
gotta
can-
be in a in-ground, you know,
We can solve this.
yeah.
Sure.
But do we need to make anything as part of this approval tonight?
You can.
I don't think you can.
No.
Don't
So
think we
that's the
can.
bottom
Okay.
line.
Yeah.
So he needs to talk with Chief Stone at some point.
To make sure he's in compliance with the actual ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Chris, you're still a ways away from this. We're
Right,
a
right.
year out.
So we, yeah.
And you gotta understand something too, that no matter what we decide tonight, like I said, when we first talked about this time back, even now, I think it's a great idea. I still think it's a great idea. We wanna see you move forward, but there's still gonna be some that not gonna think it's so great. And
Yeah, so far we haven't hit that
anything jumping
person.
up, getting in your way, so if
Right.
these little small things we have to take care of, then let's get it taken care of. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
We'll work it
I
out.
like the idea.
And like I said, I think we're a ways away from actually pushing it. I mean, I'm willing to come back and do whatever we need to do to make
There's
sure
time.
we have those changes.
Right.
And, you know, nothing I have is written in stone. That's why I'm here with the people of Bedford and
Yeah.
you.
This is just the next step in the process.
That's right.
We gotta
So
get
I can
past
start
this,
to
and
move
then we can,
And
right.
start to you really develop the site plan.
Right.
So let me, Chris, while you're here, let me ask you a couple of questions. So the main entrance is coming in off of Independence.
Yes, sir.
So there will be no RVs coming in off of Longwood,
No, sir.
correct?
Yeah, too tight.
Yep, all right. Will there be, in case of emergency, would there be?
There is access in case of emergency. They'll be able to come through there if they had to.
Okay.
But we're not,
But if the fire department or the
Yes.
police department
Yeah,
needed to
they
get
can
through
all
there,
come
they, you know, and the other access was
yeah,
blocked, so
you'll
there
be
is.
able to access it from Longwood and from Independence.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we had,
Yeah.
because that's a pretty long
Yeah,
strip
it's a
there, you
run.
know, and,
Yeah, but we're trying to keep all the RVs and all the traffic off of Longwood period to that side.
and so, each lot's gonna have its own separate water and sewer hookup
And electrical, yes, sir.
and electrical, and so, the conversations with the water authority on the sewer capacity, they've been positive.
So far as we know, we have. I mean,
Okay.
that's part of the site plan that we've developed, and we're kind of
Just like to get
concerned
that
after
note.
a couple
Yeah.
of stories I've heard, but.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. I mean, I think we can tackle those as we approach them, but I don't foresee anything that they know what we're doing. I think that they haven't come to me with anything that
Okay.
they're alarmed about.
At Planning Commission, there was an issue and it was discussed about a pump station, but we were pushing more towards no individual
Right, so we
hookups, right?
originally thought we might have a drop discharge tank. And so when we were working with AccuPoint, they said, you know, why if you have full hookups, why are you putting a discharge in? That just makes no sense. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right. So we are gonna have a gravity fed basically all the way down. But we might have to put a pump station in to pump it back up if we don't go under Shady Knoll, and that's phase 2. We haven't really explored that hard because we're just going for this first phase. But there is possibility that we have to put a pump station and pump it up back up to these 25 sites at the top.
And that won't be too prohibitive? That's something you can do?
Sir?
That won't be too cost?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, by that time, we're hoping to be generating money, so we'll be able to do anything we need to do. But, you know, yeah, it's gonna cost more if we have to put a pump station in.
But that's if you're adding more sites down lower.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first phase, everything will be the 25 spots, basically the property line back towards the Longwood run. And we're supposed to get about 25 in there before we hit that 8% slope. And so once we hit that slope, it's gonna be a little more creative because they're gonna come off Independence and they're gonna hit a big turn and they're gonna hit a 25-foot road or 20-foot road, and they're gonna come in and they'll come up an 8% grade till they hit the flat. And then they'll start to have the parks. And then we'll have to get creative on that second phase to kind of figure out what we're gonna do.
So you start from the Longwood end coming to.
Correct. We're gonna start down at Longwood and come back in the phase because that's the easiest set to do, and that makes more sense. We're gonna have 2 pavilions, one up towards the buildings up towards Longwood, pretty much right behind El Cazador, and then we're gonna have one in the middle, and that'll be a shower house with a pavilion possibly attached to that. And then we'll have some recreation.
I want to also, just for the council's benefit, and being on the council representative for Planning Commission, and Mary, I may need your help on this one. There were no conditions on this one because I believe the statute laid out so many conditions.
Right.
The actual code section, we have to go
there's a
through a
lot
different
to
process to
Virginia
change it.
Department of
because
Health. And
yeah, it's all in there, in the language that we voted on, actually, whenever it was. So that's why the conditions are already written in the code section. So, just letting you know that, even though.
Yeah, we pretty much followed what other places are doing with the RV conditions.
So we're,
I mean, it's-
right.
It's pretty much legit, right through it.
the main road all the way up to that cul-de-sac, that's gonna be,
The turnaround you're
you're
talking
right, the
about?
turnaround, yeah. Is that asphalt?
No, it's gonna be gravel. Look, we're trying to figure out what we're gonna do. There was a talk at the beginning when we first went through that we didn't wanna use millings because of the oil runoff. And so we're still not planning on doing that. We did use behind the 2 buildings at the front, we used the food line millings, which was an amazing gift. Oh my gosh, I don't know who prayed for that, but that was amazing. We were able to recycle the millings over on the food line parking lot, put them behind the 2 buildings, build that before we pave, and that saved a chunk, and recycled it, and the guys doing it loved it, because all they do is drive across the street and dump. And it packs as hard as pavement. But as far as the actual road coming in for the RV, we need something with a little bit of firmness. I mean, they're gonna be pulling these big rigs, so
Yeah.
we're trying to figure out, because we really don't wanna pave the whole thing up, you know?
Yeah, that's why I'm looking at section 60903.
Yeah, we will.
Number 6, the primary access road shall be paved in accordance with VDOT
Yeah,
standards.
it's
So-
gonna come off pretty good paving while the shoulder kickoff, and then it's gonna come up and make the turn paved. But then once it gets past that, we're gonna try to shoot at some kind of gravel or some kind of hard pack. That's what we're shooting for right now. We've talked to Boxley, and we're trying to figure out what they best suggest for that, as we come up to that point of
If
flatness.
it's raining, this can be a muddy mess back there.
Well, we're hoping we're gonna have a solid road. I mean, if we don't have a solid road, we're in trouble.
Yeah, you're gonna have some rigs stuck back there if you
Yeah,
have gravel or whatever.
But,
How deep are your sites?
Each site right now is 30 by 50.
30 by 50, okay.
And I think that's in the ordinance.
Yeah. So now the road going in, that'll be wide enough for 2 trailers or RVs to get
Correct.
by each other.
We're not expecting them to pass a lot, but we are going
Yeah.
20 feet wide. We're actually thinking that they can use it as part of their cornhole and hanging out spots, you know, in the road. I mean, it's,
Right,
you know,
right.
we're talking 25 slots. We're not talking like 100. So
Yeah.
once they get in there, we're hoping they're going to stay a while in Bedford and just enjoy.
And they're all back-end sites.
They're all back in, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
One thing I did say in here, it said you're targeting RVs priced over 200,000.
Now, that wasn't, I don't know how that came in there, because I think the main thing we're trying to avoid is, we want people to enjoy the peace of water.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't want to have tent camping and pop-up camping and stuff like that. Now, the ordinance, I think, allows a certain range there because we didn't want to, we talked about it the first time, and we didn't want to be like, for the new guy that had like a 20-foot camper or 30-foot camper pull behind that cost them $50,000 to be like, hey, you can't stay here because you don't have a $2,000 rig. But we are going to make the amenities at this park to hold a $200,000 rig.
Right.
But we also want to be able to hold the $50,000 rig, the $30,000 rig. But we really want to, I think when we develop the ordinance, we want to try to avoid, you know, having people not be able to enjoy the experience of going to the Peace of Otter. Because that's a great campsite up there. I don't know, they have like, does anybody know how many they have? I think like 50 sites for pop-ups up there. It's amazing.
That's pretty much what it was built for.
Yeah,
years,
and I mean, we want people to
decades
go up
ago,
there.
yeah.
I mean, I guess if their truck's not gonna pull it, then maybe we'll figure out what we gotta do to help them out in Bedford, but,
Yeah, Chris, when I saw that, well, of course, most fifth wheels and pull-behinds are
they're up there.
100,000 or
Yeah.
below.
But yeah, I don't have like I don't know how that came about. But
Yeah.
I heard it and I was like, oh. But yeah, we're not targeting like a
Yeah.
certain number or anything, so.
I thought, well, that leaves me out.
Yeah, I was like, leave me out there. I like the
But I will make this comment. I understand what you're saying, but a lot of families with kids start out with a pop-up.
Yeah.
So, you know, you might watch that as time goes on.
Well, the ordinance doesn't allow that.
Doesn't
It doesn't
allow it.
allow tents, pop-up
Yeah.
campers, or truck bed campers.
And that's something
Well-
we could talk about. I mean, that's the good thing, we're talking. You know, this is,
But,
That's the ordinance we passed right now.
well,
We would have to change that ordinance.
we'd have to change it
down the road,
down the road,
yes.
if we felt like that. And
All
then-
I'm saying is monitor that,
Right.
because that's where a lot of young
Families.
families start out.
Yeah, and I think what's, as we see how this is gonna be built, you know, we can go back and, I'm gonna go back and do whatever we gotta do. You know,
Yeah.
This thing's gonna be awesome. I mean, it's gonna be great for Bedford. So we can come back here many times as we want, we just fine tune this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna be able to fine tune it. I mean, I hope it's really gonna be an amazing experience for Bedford and the mayor experience for the people that come to Bedford, so.
No, that's all I'm saying is that I understand what we're passing tonight, but
Yeah.
we could change things.
Yes.
Or make
As far as
little tweaks down the road if need be.
Always go back, but.
The guest logbook that the gentleman talked about, it was put in here that this is a code requirement,
Correct.
but I think he was saying, do we have someone who would do that, Bart? You?
We'll handle it through staff.
I mean, does it get submitted to, just like, I mean, because you're gonna have, I guess you're gonna have to submit.
The Welcome Center has something similar we're familiar with.
Should we just ask estimate that be submitted at the same time you submit your transit occupancy. Something like that.
The zoning administrator will capture the data and I will report it to you at an interval at your choosing.
I mean, the zoning administrator's the one's got to make sure he's
Right.
not, not.
I just wanted to address
21 days, yeah.
his
I know.
question.
No, I mean, because that was one of my concerns, is not turning it into an extended stay.
What kind of time
housing
frame
type
are we
place.
looking at? I know you said you got a ways to go, but do you have a,
I mean, this was the big thing right here, getting to this point. I mean, once we go from here, we're going for final financing approval. I mean, we've already got that set established. We had a couple bumps in the roads. I mean, it's actually we've been pretty lucky, but there has been about 3 or 4 bumps that really we've questioned if this was going to happen. But if financing works through and everybody, as far as the contractors that we have already established and got quotes from, pan out time frame, I mean, we're shooting to be running this time next year for 25 slots.
Nice.
But there's a lot to deal with that.
Right.
Like, I was hoping I was going to be running now. And then I got into this and realized, well, it doesn't turn as quick as I thought it was going to be. And one of my best friends actually told me that. He works doing soil work. He said, man, you're going to be shocked how long it takes to get something like this done, because it's a big project.
I mean, this is a big obstacle tonight.
Tonight was a big one. I mean, if we have approval, we have the next step to go. And
One
we're ready to go.
last question from me. I just want to make sure I know what kind of understanding this site plan. So, barriers, on the back line between the lots on Shady Knoll, what kind of barrier are you, I know you gotta have a barrier there, so what is that?
So what we did is we shifted the road a little bit closer to Independence because we wanted to try to avoid building retaining walls. And so we did a 2-to-1 slope coming off of Shady Knoll with a top berm at the top so we can mow, and so Shady Knoll, people that live there can pull their brush onto the top ridge, because that's what they're doing right now. I don't want to take that from them. And I think we can maintain that top ridge for them, and we can keep it clean, because that's what we're going to do. I mean, we want to have this clean and, want them to continue to be able to use their land. So we're going to have a top ridge, but the trees are going to come down about, we've been talking about it, about 10 to 15, 20 feet past that top ridge, and we're going to actually cut indentations in.
So it's just a tree, there's no kind of noise barrier, no kind of noise or fence?
We're not putting a fence as of now. I really want to try to avoid a fence. I want to try to do it naturally, as best I can. Now, this is going to take some time. I mean, these trees aren't going to be 20 feet high when I bury
They don't grow
in the
overnight.
ground. But, I'll get David to water
Mayor,
it
does that
every
make-
day for me.
Mayor, does that meet is trees all that's required for the barrier? I'm trying to look through here just to.
Looking here, we got the visual buffers. Item 8, a solid fence or berm may be used as the visual buffer to screen the site around the perimeter. Type, height, and material of fence or berm shall be approved through the conditional use permit process. Chain link fencing shall not be used for buffering. Yeah, the intent was to reduce noise, that first sentence. Create privacy and reduce noise.
So landscaping is trees. So it'll be a berm plus trees, is what you're saying?
I mean, we're gonna berm other parts, like when you see the Independence side, that'll be a higher berm than the Shady Knoll side. So it's gonna be a different height of berm, but yeah, it'll be bermed with dirt and trees. It's just gonna be, we'll have to kind of figure out what's best for the situation and best for the neighbors and best for the site. And, I mean, it's gonna be a
Like you said, I just want to make sure we're
Yeah.
meeting all of our
I
conditions
think it's
in the
good.
ordinance. I mean, I'm not trying to impose any other conditions on you or anything. I just want to make sure, because this site plan
Communication is good, Tim.
You know, I just want to make sure we're
Mayor
meeting
Black, you keep
all
it
of
rolling.
these
I love
things.
it.
I don't want you,
I love it.
you know, so, all right. I think that was all.
But yeah,
I think that was all my questions.
I hope we can plant some trees there like dogwoods in the front of those, and then cypress, trees for greenery that are year round. I mean, that's what we're thinking. We want to tie in some of those crepe myrtles that are on Longwood already. We want to kind of build some berm and privacy. So we're not even sure if we're going to run the whole 25. We might actually take away some of the RV sites and put berms up just to give some people space and privacy.
So, I mean, obviously, you want those people on City Knoll to be able to go out and enjoy their backyard.
Yeah.
And not feel like they're in a campground. And
Yeah.
you want the people in the campground to feel like they're not
Exactly.
in these people's backyard. So,
And that's what we're
that's
going
going
for.
to be the biggest thing you're going to, in my opinion, that you got to kind of ensure.
And I think I have good vision for that. I think all the people we're going to do involved in this, I think we're going to have, that's our goal, is to make them feel like they're camping. And make the people from Shady Knoll and Bedford coming down Independence not even know they're there.
Right.
That's our goal. I think it's going to take some time. I'm really interested to see what 5 years brings. I think at a 5-year mark, we're going to have a good understanding of what these trees are going to do, what the ground's going to do, what people come in, and I think it's going to be really neat.
I will say this, Chris, I was looking through these pictures and I thought, this looks familiar. I think,
Can you guess it?
then I saw this. I was there 2 weekends ago, yeah. So very nice campground. Now, I will say, just kind of what Tim just said, they're wide spaces, they're pull-in spaces, but, back in, most people pull in a trailer, it doesn't matter. They can back it in fine, but yeah, as time goes on, that's something else you might want to monitor, the space in between the sites.
Correct.
You don't want them just pushed in together.
And that's what we're thinking, even though they're 30 by 50 and the sites are pushed tight, as we go through building, we might want to skip a couple over there and
but
space them out.
It's kind of like the other things I mentioned. As time goes on, you'll tweak things and change it and
I'm
get a
looking
better
forward to
feel for what you need and don't need.
And seeing what our campers want. If they're liking it right there, I think we're good. But if they're feeling like we get the feedback that says, hey, we're a little too tight, I think we can change it pretty easy and make it their experience even better.
Yeah.
We're trying to bring amenities in that are going to be kind of neat for them. So there's a couple things on there. I don't want to mention them just because I'm not sure when they're going to happen. But we've got some cool ideas as far as what we can bring to people to enjoy. Just say, oh wow, I'd love to go there for the weekend and tour Bedford and watch a movie or hit a bat cage. We've got all kinds of ideas we can do. It's really neat.
The campers will give you feedback.
Yeah, it will that. It will that.
Yes. Good deal. Thank you.
Yeah, anybody else got any questions?
Question
Yes, sir.
is, I love your idea, what you plan to do, and how it's gonna bring more revenue, more tourism into the town of Bedford, into our shops and our restaurants. Thank you for doing that. But my question is, once you have this up and running, what are some of the ways you are gonna do to promote this? Because sometimes we'll have good businesses in town, but the problem is people don't know they exist because they weren't marketed properly. What's your marketing plan and to promote it?
That is an amazing question, Bruce. That's a great question. That's awesome. We have talked about marketing, and marketing is one of the biggest things that we are, we know we have to shoot off with. It's one thing to build it, but if they don't know it's here, we're in trouble. And we need to start revenue right away. This can't just sit and idle. So, Nicole Johnson, we've been using her brain as much as we can to kind of help us out and figure out what we need to do for tourism, because she's the head of tourism in Bedford. We're talking about, we have money set aside in our budget plan to specifically market. We're thinking about hiring one of our people that actually work in the office, and her main background is marketing. So she can market while she's hanging out, meeting people at Bedford. We're hoping we're going to hire people that are going to be in our stop, or in this park, that are going to be the first face of Bedford. So we want people working with us that are going to show what Bedford's about. So every single person that's going to be working at this RV park is having an understanding that they represent Bedford as a whole. I think our marketing strategy hopefully will push that. I'm hoping we can hire somebody that's a great marketer and can just go to town and go to work, because, you just let them go to the internet now and they'll just pop it. So, but Nicole Johnson's a big influence because she knows a lot that's going on as far as tourism. Great question, Bruce.
Any other questions? All right. Roll call?
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson? Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Showen?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
Welcome. All right, next item is, I'm sorry, lost my agenda here.
Tim?
I want to thank y'all for both things that I spoke to, and I thank Karen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next item is the, next page, good gosh. Ordinance on the fiber to the premises right-of-way franchise.
As laid out in the ordinance and franchise agreement enclosed, Zytel LLC approached the town earlier this year about extending its fiber optic fiber to the premises internet system into town limits. It currently operates a system throughout several parts of Bedford County. However, because the town owns and manages its own streets pursuant to the Virginia Constitution and the Code of Virginia, it must obtain a franchise from the town prior to beginning to use town rights-of-way to lay its fiber. As required by state code, the council directed the town clerk to advertise a draft franchise. The text was prepared by the town attorney and agreeable to Zytel and its terms and conditions. Because it is a non-exclusive franchise, the town may make an award to multiple bidders if more than one applies. Because of the provisions of the Federal Communications Act of 1934, the town attorney recommends award of a competitive franchise to any provider with a credible proposal that meets the requirements of the request for proposals. Community Development has advised that it hopes that the entry of Zytel and/or others into the market will spur competition in prices, customer service, and scope of service territory to the benefit of the customer. This is a goal of the deregulation of communication services under the Telecommunications Act of 1996 and Federal Communications Commission regulations. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the County Broadband Executive Director John Putney for facilitating and assisting with this relationship. And tonight I would ask that the mayor formally close the current bidding, and I will ask the town attorney to provide a summary of the bids received. And ultimately, I would request that town council will make an award of a franchise to Zytel.
All right, so at this time, I'll ask if there are any more bids to enter into a franchise for the use of the public rights-of-way of the town for fiber to the premises internet access service. Are there any other bids? With that, none, so I will close the bidding. And I'll ask Mr. Lockley to give us a summary of the bid we've gotten from Zytel.
Mr. Mayor, the only bid that we got was from Zytel LLC. Zytel proposes to build a fiber-to-the-home internet system in the town. It also operates a what they call an over-the-top streaming television service. So it's not actually cable TV, but instead it's a it's basically a free subscription television that comes over the internet through their fiber optic cables. In the main, they propose to comply with all of the normal requirements that typically DW and John Wagner would have for access to the public rights-of-way. They will have to have a separate pole attachment agreement with the electric department, so that's a separate agreement that would be negotiated on that side. This is simply to access the public rights-of-way. The main community benefit that they propose to provide is that within 18 months they will have provided what they call a courtesy drop, which is effectively a free internet connection at the municipal building here, at the Public Works building at 702 Orange Street, at the Public Works and Engineering facility at 700 Orange Street, at the Electric Department and IT Department at 877 Monroe Street, and at the Fire Department at 315 Bedford Avenue. And they have also agreed to provide a connection to the Police Department on Plunkett Street if and when that is actually constructed. And because all of that is required within 18 months, the expectation is that therefore they would have substantially built out their system, at least within those areas of the town by that time. To clarify, for anyone who is concerned, this franchise also extends into any areas that are added into town limits through a boundary adjustment. It does not provide for them to pay any particular fees or taxes to the town. They would be subject to the communication sales and use tax, which is a tax collected by the Commonwealth, some of which filters down to towns. So, there you go.
And
I don't understand the formula. Maybe you do.
And the franchise is for 10 years.
It is a 10-year franchise. I imagine it would probably be extended, assuming it's successful, but it's an initial 10-year term.
Any questions? No? All right. We have a motion to award the,
I'll make a motion that we award,
is that what we're adopting the ordinance for, is that in the ordinance that we're awarding the?
You're awarding the franchise and adopting the franchise ordinance.
At the same time?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, so.
okay.
I'll make sure we love things.
I make a motion that we award or refer the bids to staff for further reviews to analyze and adoption at a later date.
No,
That's not.
no,
That's what it says.
no.
I apologize.
I'm asking you to award a franchise to
Oh,
Zytel.
okay.
He's asking us to,
Forgive me.
yeah.
Let me rephrase that.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we award the franchise
And adopt the,
and adopt the
And adopt
ordinance.
the franchise ordinance.
Ordinance, excuse me. Okay.
Second.
all right, so we have a motion to award the franchise to Zytel and adopt the ordinance for the use of the public right-of-ways for the town for the fiber premises internet, right? So that's the motion.
Sure.
All right. So, we got a second. Roll call. Any further discussion? No. All right, roll call.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherman?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, next item. Y'all got way too much stuff. Word it. All right, is the amendment of Chapter 50 of the Town Code to add Article 7 rights-of-way use fee for communication providers.
The Virginia Department of Transportation and most municipalities that control their own rights-of-way charge a public rights-of-way use fee in order to recover the marginal cost of having communications providers occupying the rights-of-way and tearing them up, thus increasing the public works costs and lessening the number of years between repaving cycles. Historically, the town has not imposed such a fee, or only imposed it on a piecemeal basis through individual franchises. Beginning in 1998, the Virginia General Assembly began making franchise fee calculation methodologies for communications providers more uniform throughout the Commonwealth. Today, we are authorized to charge this fee by ordinance. VDOT calculates the use fee annually based upon its actual maintenance costs. For 2023, the monthly rights-of-way use fee is $1.26 per connection per month. Because of its almost universal use, communications providers are used to administering this fee. The town manager is directed in the ordinance to provide copies of the ordinance to communications providers in the town. Town staff will also notify VDOT, which publicizes a list of localities that charge the use fee and/or franchise fees for communications franchisees. Tonight, Town Council is requested to consider adoption of the ordinance amending Chapter 50 of the Town Code.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. A couple questions I had. So existing communication providers in town would probably be Chantel, Verizon, if, for their landline stuff, not for the wireless, but for,
If they're providing internet, then yes.
so Verizon DSL, I mean.
Verizon DSL, yep. If-
But not for,
assuming they're still already-
not for telephone, landline.
Right,
Okay.
DSL, as
Okay.
well as Chantel. Chantel's used to it. They might very well have been collecting it and just not telling us about it.
Probably, I mean, they got a lot of
That's,
taxes on
that's
that bill.
unkind of me. They probably aren't doing that.
No.
But they're very, very used to it. In fact, when Zytel, I know Zytel, Chantel, I'm going back and forth, but when Zytel approached us about this, they said, we didn't see a rights-of-way use fee ordinance in the town. You're going to collect that, right? That was how that conversation went. So it seemed like the way to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, you know.
Is that in the budget?
No, it's not in the,
Not yet.
not yet.
We'll be one created.
It will be.
I mean, I don't think it's gonna be a very big number, but who knows? I mean, it's a different source of revenue, and that's what we were talking about earlier.
Diversifying the revenue.
That's right.
There's 3,000 households.
All right. Anybody?
Oh, another question is, now this, obviously, it's gonna deal with phones, but will it also deal with smartphones as well? Because you can get internet off of a smartphone as well.
It's just internet. It's just the stuff that, it's just stuff that's being used right now in our right of way. Is that correct?
Correct. It's just stuff, it's just ones that are using the right of way. So it's just people who have a wire that comes from the street into your house. So it doesn't cover mobile phones, because the whole point of it is that DW has to spend more time patching the roads because they're out there digging them up and fixing things and whatever else. So we're trying to recover some of that cost in order to just make us whole for that work that the town public works is doing.
All right. Roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherwin?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right. Thank y'all for everybody. A lot of stuff tonight.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
I'll take $30,000.
I was talking